The story starts in a small diner in Georgia, a state in the southern United States. The main character is Lieutenant Sarah Matthews. She is sitting by herself at a table in the corner of the diner. Even though she's wearing regular civilian clothes, not her military uniform, you can still tell she's military by the way she carries herself, her posture, and how she sits. This comes from her 15 years of experience as a Navy SEAL, which is one of the most elite Special Forces units in the U.S. military. It's almost closing at the diner, so it's late at night. Sarah only stops here for coffee because she's on a long car trip to visit her family. While sitting there, she notices something concerning. A group of men in the parking lot outside the diner. These men are wearing patches with the Confederate flag on them, a symbol often associated with racism in the American South. The way these men are looking at her is not friendly. They're giving her hostile, mean, or threatening glances. As Sarah finishes paying her bill at the diner and starts walking to her car, she hears people walking behind her. Because of her military training, she immediately starts analyzing the situation without letting the men know she's aware of them. She specifically notices 3 things. 1. Number of people. She counts 5 men. 2. Their position. They're trying to spread out around her flanking, which is a threatening move. 3. Their likely intentions. Based on their behavior, she knows they mean to harm her. Even though she's fully aware of the danger, Sarah keeps walking normally, pretending she doesn't notice them. But internally, she's getting ready for action. This is described as coiling herself like a spring, meaning she's preparing her body to react if needed. Then one of the men, their leader, makes a threatening comment. "Hey girl, you're in the wrong part of town." This is a racist statement suggesting she, as a black woman, shouldn't be in their area. The story notes that Sarah has experienced racism before, but usually not in such an openly threatening way. She recognizes the danger in the situation, described by the line, "She sighs internally," showing that while she's not scared, she's disappointed to be dealing with this type of prejudice again. The men spread out around Sarah in a half-circle shape. They think they're trapping her so she can't run away. What's funny about this is that they don't realize they're the ones in trouble. They just don't know it yet because they have no idea Sarah is a trained Navy SEAL. When Sarah responds to this threat, she does it very carefully and professionally. She doesn't rush or panic. Instead, she turns around slowly and keeps her hands loose at her sides. She's trying to be peaceful when she says, "Gentlemen, I'm just passing through. Let's not do anything we'll regret." By saying this, she's giving them a chance to walk away and avoid trouble. She doesn't want to fight if she doesn't have to. Then we meet the leader of these men. He's the biggest one in the group, and he has a swastika tattoo, which shows he believes in racist Nazi ideas. He acts in a very disrespectful way. He spits on the ground to show his contempt for Sarah. Then he says something really nasty. He tells her there aren't any gentlemen here, just good old boys, who are going to teach her a lesson about staying in your place. When he says your place, he's using racist language that suggests black people should know their place in society. It's the kind of horrible thing racists say when they think they're better than others because of skin color. This part of the story is really important because it shows us 2 very different types of people. On one side, we have Sarah, who is professional, calm, and trying to avoid violence even though she could easily handle these men. On the other side, we have these racist attackers who are aggressive and hateful, judging her just because of her race. They have no idea that the person they're threatening is a highly trained military professional who could easily defeat them all. This creates what we call dramatic irony, when the audience knows something important that some of the characters don't know. The scene begins by describing how Sarah prepares herself for what's about to happen. She makes a tiny shift in her body position, so small that the men probably don't even notice it. This movement helps her get into a better fighting stance. In her mind, she's completely calm. She's not scared or angry. Instead, she's thinking about all the different ways this fight might go, just like she was trained to do as a Navy SEAL. She's planning ahead, like a chess player thinking about their next moves. One of the most important parts of this scene is how the men see Sarah versus who she really is. When these racist men look at her, they only see what they expect to see. A black woman alone at night who must be scared and helpless. They're so stuck in their racist beliefs that they can't imagine she might be dangerous. This is their big mistake, and it shows how their prejudice makes them foolish and vulnerable. What these men don't know about Sarah would fill a book. They have no idea that she spent thousands of hours learning how to fight in hand-to-hand combat. It's like how a pianist practices for years to be perfect. Sarah has practiced fighting moves over and over until they're automatic. Her body remembers exactly what to do in a fight without her having to think about it. This is called muscle memory, and it's a big part of military training. She's one of the first women to become a Navy SEAL. This is a huge deal because being a SEAL is one of the hardest things to achieve in the military, and until recently, women weren't allowed to do it. Sarah had to be incredibly tough, skilled, and determined to make it. She's been in real combat situations in dangerous places around the world. She has what the story calls steel in her spine, which means she's incredibly brave and strong-willed. This part of the story shows us how wrong these men are to judge Sarah just by looking at her. They see someone they think is weak, but they're actually facing someone who's more skilled and dangerous than they could imagine. It's like a story where bullies pick on someone, not knowing that person is secretly a superhero. The big difference here is that Sarah's powers come from years of real training and experience, not magic or accidents. She's worked incredibly hard to become who she is, and these men are about to learn a very surprising lesson about judging people by their appearance. The action starts when the first man decides to attack. He throws a punch at Sarah, but he does it badly. The story says he telegraphs his punch, which means he makes it obvious what he's going to do before he does it, like sending a message ahead of time. Any trained fighter could see this punch coming easily, and Sarah definitely does. Sarah's response shows just how well-trained she is. The story describes her movement as liquid lightning, which means she moves both smoothly, like water, and quickly, like lightning. Instead of blocking the punch directly, she uses a smart fighting technique. She redirects his attack. This means she uses his force and momentum against him. The result? The attacker ends up face down on the pavement, probably very surprised about how he got there. Then the second man tries to attack her. Sarah deals with him by making one precise strike to his solar plexus, the area right below your chest. This is a sensitive spot that, when hit correctly, makes it hard to breathe. The man is left gasping for air, unable to continue fighting. This shows that Sarah knows exactly where to hit to stop someone without causing serious injury. The story makes an important point here about how Sarah is fighting. It says, she's not fighting, she's conducting an operation. This means she's not just randomly throwing punches or fighting out of anger. Instead, she's using her military training to handle the situation professionally and methodically, step by step. Every move she makes is planned and precise, just like she was trained to do in the Navy SEALs. The final part shows a bit of irony, something that's the opposite of what you'd expect. These men wanted to cause violence and hurt Sarah, but instead, they're getting what the story calls a lesson in professional force application. In other words, they're learning the hard way what it's like to face someone who knows how to fight properly. Sarah is giving them a demonstration of what real military combat training looks like, though it's probably not the kind of lesson they wanted to learn. The difference between untrained street fighting, what the attackers are trying to do, and professional military combat training, what Sarah is doing. While the attackers are aggressive and sloppy, Sarah is calm, efficient, and in complete control of the situation. She's not trying to hurt them badly. She's just efficiently stopping their attack using her training. The scene opens with two of the remaining men deciding to attack Sarah at the same time. They think that attacking together will give them an advantage. After all, it's 2 against 1. They still believe Sarah is an easy target, even after seeing what happened to their friends. This shows how stubborn their prejudice is. They just can't believe a black woman could be beating them. Sarah's response to their double attack is described as practiced grace. This means she moves smoothly and skillfully, like a dancer who has rehearsed their moves many times. Instead of getting nervous about fighting two people at once, she calmly moves between them. Again, she uses their own momentum against them. This is a smart fighting technique where you let your attacker's own movement and energy work against them. It's like redirecting a river rather than trying to stop it. The way she takes down these two attackers is quick and efficient. She uses a sweep, a move that takes out someone's leg from under them, to knock down one man by hitting his knee. For the other attacker, she uses an elbow strike to drop him. Both moves show how Sarah doesn't need fancy techniques. She uses simple, effective moves that get the job done. Then the scene gets more dangerous. The leader, seeing all his friends getting beaten, pulls out a knife. This is a major escalation, going from fists to a weapon. Sarah's reaction is interesting. Her face doesn't change expression, but her eyes show something deadly. This tells us that while she's still in control, she's also very serious about the increased threat. Even with a knife involved, she gives the man one last chance to stop, saying quietly, "Last chance to walk away." The final line of this part, "He chooses poorly," is like something from a movie. It tells us that the leader made a big mistake by not taking Sarah's warning. He still doesn't understand just how skilled she is, and he's about to find out the hard way. By ignoring her warning and choosing to attack with a knife, he's made a decision that's going to end badly for him. This part of the story is important because it shows how the situation gets more serious with the introduction of a weapon, but Sarah stays professional and controlled. Even when faced with a knife, she still gives her attacker a chance to back down, showing that she's not just skilled at fighting, she's also trying to avoid unnecessary violence. This reveals her character as someone who uses violence only as a last resort, even when dealing with people who attacked her first. The scene begins with the leader's knife attack, which the story describes as amateur hour. This means his attack is very unprofessional and poorly done, especially compared to the dangerous combat situations Sarah has faced in her military career. For someone with her level of training in close-quarters combat, fighting at very close range, this knife attack probably looks like something a beginner would do. Sarah deals with the knife threat using what's called a textbook wrist lock. The word textbook here means she does it perfectly, just like it would be taught in training. A wrist lock is a self-defense move where you grab and twist someone's wrist in a way that makes them lose control of what they're holding. When Sarah does this move, the knife falls to the ground harmlessly. This shows how skilled she is at disarming people. She makes a dangerous situation look easy. Then Sarah takes complete control of the situation. She puts the leader face down on the ground and twists his arm behind his back, which is a standard police-style control hold. She also places her knee in exactly the right spot to keep him from moving. This position allows her to control him without causing serious injury. It's like she's following a perfect instruction manual for subduing someone safely. The scene ends with two important details. First, we see that the leader is whimpering in pain, which is a big change from his earlier tough guy attitude. This shows how quickly the situation has reversed. The man who was threatening Sarah is now completely helpless. Second, we see the other men, at least the ones who are still conscious, watching in shock. They can't believe what they're seeing. Their big, tough leader has been defeated by the very person they thought would be an easy target. This part of the story is powerful because it shows the complete defeat of the racist gang's leader. His weapon is gone, his tough guy act is over, and he's being held down by the very person he tried to intimidate. It's a perfect example of how dangerous it is to judge someone by their appearance rather than their actual abilities. The gang leader assumed Sarah would be an easy victim because she's a black woman, but his racism and prejudice led him to make a serious mistake in judgment. The sound of police sirens approaching the area. This tells us that someone, probably the diner staff, called the police when they saw what was happening in the parking lot. While they wait for the police to arrive, Sarah keeps the gang leader pinned down, maintaining her professional composure. The story notes that her breathing is still calm and measured, which shows how this confrontation hasn't even made her break a sweat. It's been that easy for her. Then Sarah does something interesting. She starts talking to the pinned man in a casual, conversational way, like she's just having a normal chat. This shows her complete control of the situation. She's so confident and relaxed that she can have a conversation while keeping him restrained. She starts by saying, "You know what the funny thing is?" which sets up an important message she wants to deliver to him. The message she gives him is powerful and meaningful. She tells him that throughout her military career, she's been fighting to protect everyone's rights, including the rights of people like him who are racist. She mentions that she has bled for it and lost friends for it, which means she's made real sacrifices in combat, and some of her fellow soldiers have died defending these freedoms. Sarah then explains something important about what serving in the military means to her. She says that protecting everyone's rights, even the rights of people who would deny those same rights to others, is part of what makes America what it is. This is a powerful moment because she's showing that even though these men attacked her because of her race, she still believes in protecting their rights as Americans. She's demonstrating a level of dedication to American principles that goes beyond personal feelings. This part of the story carries a deep message about patriotism and duty. Sarah explains that true service to the country means protecting the rights of all citizens, even those who are prejudiced or hateful. It's ironic and sad that the men who attacked her probably consider themselves patriots. Yet here's a black woman who has done more to defend American freedoms than they ever have. This scene turns what started as a violent confrontation into a powerful lesson about what real patriotism and service to the country mean. This section is particularly meaningful because it shows Sarah isn't just physically superior to her attackers, she's also morally superior. Instead of responding to their hatred with more hatred, she responds with a lesson about duty, service, and the true meaning of protecting American freedoms. She's not just winning the physical fight, she's demonstrating what real strength of character looks like. The scene begins when the police arrive at the parking lot. What they find is described as an unusual scene, which makes sense because it's not what police usually expect to find. Instead of an ordinary fight, they see 5 men who have been completely defeated, but interestingly, none of them are seriously hurt, just thoroughly beaten. This shows how skilled Sarah is. She was able to stop all of them without causing any serious injuries. In contrast to the men, Sarah is described as being completely composed, or calm and collected. While the attackers are scattered around in various states of defeat and disarray, some unconscious, some just unable to fight, she's calmly explaining to the police what happened. This contrast between the chaos of the defeated men and Sarah's professional composure makes quite a picture. Then comes an important moment. Sarah shows her military ID to the police officers. When they see it, their eyebrows go up in surprise. This is a natural reaction when they realize that these men didn't just attack any random person, they attacked a Navy SEAL. The officer's reaction suggests they understand just how badly these men messed up by choosing this particular target. The story then focuses on the gang's leader, who is now in handcuffs. The text says his entire worldview is crumbling, which means his beliefs about the world are falling apart. This is a powerful moment because he's being forced to face the fact that the black woman he thought would be an easy victim is a highly trained military professional who easily defeated him and his entire gang. All his racist assumptions about black people and women have just been proven completely wrong. This part of the story is particularly satisfying because it shows the complete reversal of the situation. The men who started as threatening attackers are now defeated and in custody, while their intended victim turns out to be the hero of the situation. It's also important that Sarah handled everything legally and professionally. When the police arrive, she can calmly explain what happened because she used only the necessary force to defend herself. This shows that even in defending herself, she stayed within the law and maintained her military discipline. The scene begins with Sarah giving her official statement to the police. While she's doing this, she's thinking about what just happened. The story mentions that violence wasn't her preferred solution, which tells us that Sarah would have rather avoided fighting if possible. This shows her character. She's not someone who enjoys hurting others, even when they attack her first. Then we see Sarah hoping that these men might learn something from this experience. The story suggests that beneath their hatred and ignorance, there might be a chance for them to change their views. This shows that even after everything that happened, Sarah still hopes these men can become better people. It's a generous thought, considering they just tried to hurt her because of her race. As Sarah finally gets back to her car to continue her trip, her mind turns to her military team. This is important because it shows what matters to her. Instead of dwelling on the fight, she thinks about the diverse group of warriors she serves with. This tells us that in her real life, she works with people of all backgrounds who come together as a team. The story ends with a powerful thought about America. Sarah thinks about her country as being not perfect, but always worth fighting for. This is a mature and realistic view. She knows America has problems, like the racism she just faced. But she still believes in what America can be and thinks it's worth protecting. This last thought brings the whole story together. It connects the small fight in the parking lot to bigger issues about race, service, and what it means to be American. This ending is meaningful because it moves from the immediate situation, the fight, to bigger ideas about change, service, and patriotism. Instead of ending with just victory over the attackers, it shows us Sarah's deeper thoughts about her country and her hopes for positive change. It's a thoughtful way to end what started as an action story, giving us something more meaningful to think about. The final message suggests that real patriotism isn't about hate or excluding people. It's about serving and protecting everyone, even while acknowledging and working to fix the country's problems. Through Sarah's character, we see what true service and dedication to the country mean.